Hi everybody, it's Crystal. So I was just going to answer a question that I get quite often. People ask me a lot why they can't, or why the ends of their rows don't stay straight. Well, I don't really have a definitive answer for that, but I do have, I can offer you why I might think it be, why I think it's happening. And I can kind of tell you how to keep your row straight the way that I do it. Now, I'm by no means a crochet expert. You do not have to take my advice, but I'll show you what I think maybe a lot of people do that makes their rows crooked or makes their edges crooked. I don't know if you do it or not, but this seems logical that people, it would make your rows crooked. And I can show you what I do to make mine not crooked. Now remember, you don't have to take my advice, but I'll go ahead and show you. Now it'll be the same, basically the same concept if you're working a double crochet row or a single crochet row. Okay, but I started a row of double crochet here. Now, one thing I would say is most crocheters will tell you to chain 3 on a double crochet row and turn your work, and then put your next double crochet right here, not into this very first stitch, because this chain 3 is going to act as this first stitch, so they would want you to put it right here, and that's fine. That's the way you can do it, and you could do that all the way down. I do not do it this way. Sometimes I do, but not often. But you can do it that way. But then when you get to the chain 3 here at the end, I think what happens is it kind of blends in and people tend to miss it. That would be my reason why I think rows tend to be crooked. So you would maybe miss that chain 3, and then you would chain 3 again, and you would turn, and then you would not start in this first stitch because you have that chain 3 that's going to count as a double crochet. You would start in the next one, and you'd work down, putting a double crochet in every stitch, and maybe you get to this chain 3 and you don't miss it. Maybe you notice it here. Maybe you go into the second chain of it and not the top chain of it. It really just depends on how you crochet, like that, and it's gonna make gappy holes and stuff. And then you'll chain 3 and you'll go again. Maybe you'll get down here and you'll go into the top of the chain 3, then it's gonna pull because you went into the wrong part of the chain 3 here. I don't know. That's kind of what my conclusion would be for the double crochet row. My suggestion, which was what I do, I don't even know if that's what would be making them crooked, but what I do so mine is never crooked is I don't do a chain 3. I do it, not very often though. If I don't have to do it, I won't do it. But I usually chain 1 and then I turn. I will do my very first double crochet right here into this very, very first stitch. That way it's a double crochet you're going into and you're not gonna miss it, just like that. And then you would continue doing your double crochet all the way across until you get to the end of the row. And then the only chain 3 you would have to worry about would be the one on the very first row right here. And then if you chain 1 and turned, and again went to the very, very first stitch and did a double crochet instead of a chain 3, and then double crochet in every stitch across, like this. When you get down here to the other end, there's not going to be a chain 3. It's just going to be a double crochet, and you're definitely not going to miss it. And you're not going to mistake it. You're not going to accidentally go into the first chain of it or the second chain of it. You're going to go right into the top of the double crochet. And that will keep your rows nice and straight on both ends. Less gappy too, because there won't be chains there. So that, that's kind of what I do to keep my double crochet rows straight. And it's pretty much the same concept for the single crochet row. So here I have a single crochet row that I've started, and it's pretty much the same concept. I would say generally most crocheters, I can't say all, but most will tell you to do your chain 1 and go not into the very first stitch but the next stitch, and they would count this chain 1 as a stitch. Therefore you would skip this very first stitch and go into the next one, just like that. And then you'd work it all the way down, and then maybe when you got down, you would, I think a lot of people tend to miss that chain 1 as a stitch, because sometimes it gets worked really tight and you miss it. And I think maybe that's why sometimes, that's kind of the only conclusion I could come up with why your rows would be crooked. But what I do, so to ensure that my rows stay straight, is I'll do my chain 1. I do not count that as a stitch. That chain 1 does not count as anything to me ever. Not even when I do the double crochet. It does not count as nothing. So I go directly right into the very first stitch and I'll do a single crochet. So it's like that single crochet doesn't matter to me. I don't do anything to it. It's just non-existent to me. And then I'll single crochet all the way down, just like normal. And then when I get down to the other end, since I did a single crochet in that very first stitch, instead of just only doing a chain 1, there's no way you're going to miss it. You can see it very visibly that there's a single crochet there. And you're going to go into it, and you're always going to have the same number of stitches in your row. Chain 1, and then turn, go right back into that same stitch and single crochet. Remember that chain 1, just don't even count it. It's nothing. Doesn't mean anything to you. It's just a stitch to turn. Just a turn stitch. I know a lot of people traditionally, you would go into your turn chain, and I'm not saying that that you should change your ways if you do it like that, but I'm just trying to offer people that have asked me how to keep their row straight an easier way to do it. And now I'm down here at it again, and since I just see my chain 1's here, and here's the single crochet that I put in the first stitch, it's very visible and you're not going to miss it. You're going to have the same amount of stitches each time, and then your rows at the end are going to stay nice and straight every time because they have the same amount of stitches in them. That's what I do. But remember, I'm not an expert. You don't have to listen to me, but I just had so many people ask me, and I just thought maybe, I don't even know really if that's why your rows go crooked. That's really the only explanation that I could come up with. I just think traditionally, a lot of people count that chain 1 and the chain 3 as a stitch, and I just think people tend to miss it. I remember a long time ago, I used to miss it. So, and it would make my rows crooked. So, just instead of skipping that very first stitch and using the chain 1 or a chain 3 as the stitch, I just would go right back into the same stitch. Just chain 1 and go back into it, whether I'm doing a single, half double, or a double. And that way I knew that I would never miss the stitch on the end, and my rows would always stay straight. So I just wanted to give that little tip if anybody's having trouble, that if you do it this way, you don't have to. This is a suggestion, that your rows will always have the same number of stitches, and they're always going to be straight on the ends. They're not going to be all wacky and stuff. So I just wanted to give a little tip. Thought it might help. I don't do many tips, but I do have a lot of people ask me that. So how to fix their crooked rows and what causes it. Now, like I said, I don't know for sure if that's what causes it. That's just my observation. But I can tell you how to fix it. The way I do it will work. But so I hope my advice helps some people. Hopefully it doesn't make anybody mad or anything. Sometimes I gave tips before and it upset people, like I was just changing the whole rules of crochet, and I shouldn't be teaching people that stuff, but that's just silly. If it's easier and it works, then I say go for it. So, well, I just wanted to show you guys, so I hope that works out for you. Let me know if you've been having trouble with crooked rows and then you tried this, and if it works down in the comments. I hope it does. Bye, everybody.